Hello and welcome to the Practice as Research seminar series. I'm really excited. This is the 5th year that we're doing this. This is the first one in this year 5 of the seminar series. I know some of you have been with us since the beginning, and that's super exciting. But obviously, I'm also really excited to have new people, new names and faces joining us every time. Today, it's not different to any of the other seminars. For those of you that know how the seminars work, we will have a guest speaker who is going to talk to us today about using creative methods to basically research problematic topics and tangled topics in today's world. I mean, we've got plenty of problems that we have that we encounter and that we have to explore. So having somebody talking about that as to what can we do and how can we do that is really exciting. So I'm really looking forward to that. As always, we'll have the presentation first, and then I'll kick off a conversation. I will always happily have questions of my own, but obviously it's exciting if we can have a conversation between all of us, and you come in and ask your questions yourselves too. So today we have got with us Dr. Mayara Floss, who is a Brazilian family doctor, writer and filmmaker. And Mayara actually is at the moment in Brazil, so it's stupid o'clock where she is, so which makes it even more exciting for me, and I'm even more grateful than usual that she is here today with us to talk to us about her work. Mayara holds a PhD in pathology from the University of São Paulo, and she's one of the creators of the Rural Seeds Initiative and a former ambassador for it. Her work is deeply interdisciplinary, focusing on activism and planetary health. And you can see why I have invited her to speak to us, because all of those things are matters that we have discussed, or that we have talked about in the last 4 years of this seminar series. Mayara is a member of both the WONCA Working Party and the Rural Practice and the WONCA Environmental Group. And at the University of São Paulo, she is a member of the Planetary Health Group at the Institute of Advanced Studies. She is also the creator and coordinator of the MOOCs, Planetary Health and Planetary Health for Primary Care. So with no further ado, I'm going to stop my sharing my screen, and I'm going to hand over to Mayara. Thank you so much for getting up early today. I know you said you wake up early anyway, but usually you wouldn't have to be ready and talk about your work at silly o'clock. So thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you see my screen? Yes? Okay,
Yes,
thank
we
you.
can.
So good morning from Brazil to all. It's a pleasure to me to be here. It's an honor. Thank you, Nicole, for the invitation. I was watching the last ones and just thinking about today. I have made a presentation that will go very entangled with many things that I'm doing and where I came from. As Nicole said, I'm a family physician, and I do work as a family doctor full, as a GP. And I try to bring the research into my practice. And then I do also research about basically climate change, mainly about it, and then we share. As you know, my English is not my first language, so I'm sorry if we have some cracks, but I hope you can understand. And so I have this trajectory of bringing health, art, education, science, storytelling, and communication. And I will try to share a little bit of it with you, and a little bit of my PhD that I started very on the MOOCs, on planetary health, and then I went to arts and a lot of reflections on that. And where I came from studying these limits of climate change, basically, né? And how our planet is being affected, and how this is the planetary health planetary boundaries, and how we have been crossing so many of them, and how we can live in peace in this world, in all these spaces that we need, in all this war that we are living and all that's going on. So I think a lot of time we are producing a lot of knowledge, but then and then I realized that when I was studying about climate change that we had a lot of knowledge, but then how we can transform it into action. And I will bring a little bit of that. And just to where I came from, Malcolm Ferdinand talks a lot about the environmental fracture. That's when, and then we need to talk also about the colonial fracture. And then I'm living in Brazil, and I saw that, I see this. And I think the earth, the racial violence, and the slave trade, and all the genocides and this colonial system that we are still in, they affect us, and then we cannot see nature without it. So say that's where I came. This is where I have done my residency in family medicine last year. It was completely underwater. We have hundreds of people that die. In May 2024, we had a major collapse, and then this was the neighborhoods that I was crossing as family doctor and in training. And I think we have mortgaged the health of future generations to realize economic and development gains in present. This was the places where people were sleeping because they lost their home, and there was just trying to survive in the middle of the chaos. And this was the way to the hospital. And just for you to see the electricity lines, you can have an idea of how high was the water, was meters. And then there is another part of me, this is the Amazon River in 2023. And then we have major floods on the south of Brazil. I put my pin on the Nicole maps, and then I'm living the very south, and the Amazon's in the very north. And this was July 2023, and this was October 2023. We have a very, very heavy drought. And then people are in Amazon, which is the major basin fresh water in the world. They were without water. They were dying of starvation and thirst, because it was hard to, they used the river as a road, and then it was very hard to make it. And so I came from these places just to bring a little bit. And can we make differently? And this is an art from Dayara Tucano. It's called The Life Mirror. And I will provoke you to how we can make it, and how I do, and how we can look at us and think about this differently. And human, I just want to remind us, is the one that contains humus. And there is a Krenak, he's an activist, and an indigenous activist in Brazil, and a leadership, and he talks about a subhumanity. That was the subhumanity whereas in Latin America, Asia, Africa, and native people, and this subhumanity who access less everything, and who is deeply connected with the earth. And on the other side, is the people that suffers more the consequences of climate change. So I have been thinking a lot about stitching, and as I'm a doctor, and stitching the confluences on communication, education, and planetary health, because I believe there is not just one planetary health, but we need to look at this movement with many different perspectives, including native. So this exercise to stitch And then I stitched a Möbius line. I made this, it's like my artwork, which is very basic. But then I did it as an exercise of thinking on how we can connect human and how we can connect with nature, how we can reconnect as we are nature. And then we have this entangled knowledge of humanity and nature. I really like the work of Neri Oxman, and I refer to her. And this is the silk pavilion where she constructed with the silk, like together with nature and work of art. And then she have this Krebs cycle of creativity where we have art, science, engineering, design, and then future, nature in one side and another. And then I try to propose, it's just like a 2D dimension. And then I try to propose and talked a lot about it. Because where I came from in Latin America and all this diverse knowledge I will be talking to you. And I still think there is a lot of hegemonic colonial science, design, engineering, and art. And then I tried to propose shapeless knowledge with no defined borders and where we can have overlapping layers. And this like of the way that we see is just like usually Occidental way, North-oriented way is just one of the layers. And then we have many other layers of where is the knowledge uh, of of humans and other kind of knowledge of plants, of animals, of like I always play that we need to be less ecological and maybe more ecological. So trying to move from just humans, but we can what we produce together as we are nature. And then I have been pushing in how we can open reflective tentacular fissures through the planetary health, communication, art, and education. And then I was I was working a lot of my data on my PhD. And then I decided to write a book, a fiction one. It's called Impossible World. It's here, and it's all black because it's there is a short story um about carbon and it's try to make people connect with climate change because there is a lot of denialism and it's really hard for us to uh, connect with these ideas because it's hard to see how the world is developing and how we where we are going as humans. And then one of the stories is about a future and is as a dystopian book, but to think about the present. But then it's a futuristic story about a woman that she's trying to print trees in 3D printers because there is no tree anymore in the world. And I think this connected with people on how we should be very careful with trees and remind us when you have ever planted a tree, have you ever planted a tree? When? Because the future is ancestral and we need to try to remember ourselves of this ancestrality, of the simple things that we need to do to stand in this world. And this is another short story about a bubble, and then the humans are living in the bubble, and then if you want to ride a bike, you need to get out the bubble, and it's very risky because you can get sunburn because the gas is terrible outside, and the people are so exposed to this atmospheric that they can get burned just to get out on a bicycle. So this is just for us, and I use the fiction to provoke these thinkings. But then it's in Portuguese, I'm sorry, but just to bring a little bit of this how we can communicate without being just data and very like uh, it's important for sure, and I acknowledge that, but then also how we can cross these borders on communication to reach people. And I want to provoke you. I imagine a very bad world in the future where there is no trees and everything. But then I say that I will, there is no easy way out. There is no easy way that we can get out of this crisis. I know it's collective. This is one of the things that I know about this crisis. But then how we can reimagine and where are the possible exits? So I'm also supervisor, and then I train my residents, and then I give a class on planetary health, and then we plant trees. It's very symbolic, but then I also imagine that we have planted many now, over 100. And I imagine that at least these students and then these health professionals in training, they will let a little bit of a forest from everything. And then I will move now to another experience. There is do with, not for or about. It's very Paulo Freire thing. And this is Maré Island. It's located on the northeast of Brazil in the Bahia state. And it is an island that has a port, Aratu port, and a refinery. And it's an island of quilombola people, which is people that reminiscent from when we have the slavery. So they are Black communities, and then they run out of slavery, and then they created the quilombola community in the island. Então, so it is this Maré Island. And I live in the very south, as I told you, and I was invited to do a process of how we can communicate about climate change with this community. And it was very hard because because of the geographic distance, and I cannot just go there because I have my patients here and all the work that I do here. So we organized virtual meetings to start a little bit of bond. And then I decided to bring a team of artists to do graffiti and also comics, and trying to connect all of this. And then we designed everything together, how we would paint it and how we would transform the island in a book where people can go and read a little bit of this book through the walls into the different communities. So this is what we have done. And pollution of sea air kills until when? It is written, and then this is the port and the refinery represented here, and the children blowing it out, you know. So there is a lot of layers here to think. This is another one about re-exist and how we can re-exist this world and think differently. So just a little bit of the structure of the project. So we have activism, science, environment, community, and a memory map. We have done, it's almost done, a memory map where people, we weren't asking to them what they want to put in the map, just like the school or geographical reference, but memory reference. The tree that my grandfather were talking about histories when I was a child. That was the things that was in the map. The place where I like to see the sea. So we made a memory map so people can connect with their memories of this community. And then I realized that when I got back, we stayed like 2 weeks and some days at the working very hard with the community to paint all the panels and to take all the stories and to create it with them. And then I realized that when I got back, that I wouldn't be able to just write about it without them. And then it was a huge exercise of years. Now we are in 3 years meeting from time to time, sometimes weekly, to write together about this experience. So they are shell fisherwomen, and some of them, have a very simple life, and then to enter in this place of writing academic writing, it's not an easy movement. And then we have done a very challenging bibliography that have oral tradition, music, the social media pages. That is what they use as to construct as their reference of the world. And these are another arts, and then we have this diverse knowledge, oral tradition, and this ancestry of the community, and also the feeling of them that they are objects of science. And then we are doing this shift that they are the authors of their own story. And then we came out with Listen Action award that we created to navigate the fact of not extracting or splitting knowledge, but converging on the territory and multiple knowledge connections. So we shouldn't go to Mare Island or to any place and just listening and then never come back. We need to listen action. We need to think together where we should act with them. And then this was one of the stories that I want to share with you. I can share later the one of the articles. It's still it's still unpublished, but I can share with you. It's to come out at any time. It's almost there. And then we have these transdisciplinarities. But then these disciplinarities, not just academic disciplinarities, it is the community disciplinarities. And then care and creativity happen through closeness and not to power. And this create implication of the autonomy of others. And then why should I, Mayara, that I have many articles published, be the first author? So I have done the first article with this group of women, and then the next one, they were the first author. They were saying we should write like this or that, and I think this open way in the academic knowledge that I think this is the right place where we should go to think and write together with our communities. And it's also a test that people should be able to understand. The local community should be able to understand what is in this text. And then this is where I work as a family doctor. It was in May 2023, and it was actually a park place. And then I have been working on putting many things together, and this was in 2024, and we turned this park place into an agroforestry, and also a place for receiving arts presentations of the community. And then we created the green waiting room. You don't need to wait inside for your consultation. You can wait outside. And we got flooded again in this year, in the January of this year. But then how we can keep like our spirits elevated, and then how we can rethink with our community. So I'm talking a lot about green prenatal care, and then I plant trees with my patients, if they want, of course, for the children that are coming. And that's very like the community has been prescribed trees. And then this is a little bit of the seeds that I'm trying to bring. And then one of the patients brought it to me, the seeds into a medication bottle. And this was just so symbolic to me because it shows where is the future or where we should go, or, you know. And so every week we met, every Monday and Wednesday at 4 p.m. You're more than welcome to come. So if you want to come to Brazil. And then we discuss and we think about how we can inhabit this world, and then we take care of our agroforestry. And just I promise that I'm almost finishing. But then also I realized that my community, I work in the public health system. I realized that my community have a very part of them, not all of them, but part of them hasn't a really good education. They haven't completed like high school, and they haven't had access to basic education. And then I started to referring them to the public adulting schooling in Brazil, which is also is a public program. It's by the government. And then the patients started to learn how to read and to write. Because how can I talk about climate change if they do not know how to read and how to write? Of course we can, but then I need to increase the literacy so have we can have better healthcare. They can access the city. They can go to many places. So I start to refer them to the school, and then they wrote. This was the screen of the computer of a woman of 70 and some years, and that she was the first time for her life using a computer and writing on it. And we published this article and about going back to school and this being a health issue. And then as I like trying to push the borders, we turned the primary healthcare center into a school. So we have in the primary healthcare center where I work as a family doctor, twice per week, we turned the auditorium into a class for adult schooling. And to finish, what we do with the bad days, art. And I really believe that primary care is usually a disease care center. And I'm trying to bring art, education, nature, so we can be really a health center. It's kind of trying to change the focus of how we do. So we turned the parking place, as I showed to you, into a stage to try to create other possible worlds. And this was like later when the clinics is closed to see patients. And then we turned the clinics into a theater. And this is the choral. And then I've tried to bring to you this hope and utopias where we can bring these ideas of how we can transform our reality, and the urgency that we need to paint our walls with urucum and toa and genipapo, which is Amazon plants that we paint ourselves. And it is a collective work for us to change. And this is artist from Jader Eisbro. He was an awesome indigenous artist from Brazil. So last week, it was just last Thursday, we had a community art presentation, which was a partnership with the State University, UDESC, and the NUDA, they call it the Diversity and Human Rights Nucleus of local nuclei to promote this kind of activities. And then we registered our health center as a place where we can receive art. So people can access art, because imagine that we have the universities actually in our territory, it's very close by, but then many people do not access because they don't think that that was a public place where they can go and that they can access art or whatever. So, and then the health unit, they access because it's the access to health is more open, and then there is the need. And then when we try to bring this to our communities, we are trying to, uh, it's kind of shifting a little bit that they can access culture, and then they access culture into the healthcare sector. And this was last week, so we made this painting with the Guarani community and with the Paraheti, which was the people who were coordinating it. And then we painted our community with these indigenous people. And this is the class of the adult education painting themselves with indigenous in the middle of the health center, and it's a little bit crazy. And but I'm trying to organize a little bit for you. There is this bem viver concept that is not a very good translation into English. Well-being, it's not what we're talking about. It's much more profound. But then I try to think about health, art, education, planetary health, and then in the middle we have this citizenship, this equity in accessing culture, equity in access education, and I think we don't want just the right to survival, but the right to have a good life. And this joint construction of a space of co-creation with practical proposal through viable innovations, and how we can think in this order that's different from very how we usually organize things. And well, I walked, sorry, there's a typo there, between these limits, being or not being science or art or fiction. And I think we can shift the boundaries through utopia and affection. And this is just my last slide of Jader Aisbel, this indigenous artist, that is the conversation of intergalactic entities to decide the universal future of humanity. And I hope we can think differently about our future. And I try to do it every single day of my days. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Mayara. This is a really, really exciting talk. And I have got so many questions. So I hope that not many other people will want to talk to you, because I've got plenty of stuff to talk about. But I'm not going to be mean. There's a lot of people who are virtually applauding you and sending you love, etc. But I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to hog the microphone. So if anybody wants to come in to have that conversation with Mayara at any point, please let me know so that I can bring you in. Morris, am I right? Morris Cohen, am I right that you want to come in straight away?
Did I say that?
Yeah. Oh, you've just unmuted yourself, so I assume that you
Oh,
may want to come in. Yeah, that feel free. That's
I'm
fine.
happy to kick off if that's so. Thank you so much. That was I haven't prepared anything. I mean, I just that was really awesome. It connected a lot with what I do. I'm 76 years old, and I just recently finished my PhD in theatre. So a lot of what you said had connections with what I'm doing. And I am primarily, my work is in the National Health Service and working with doctors and nurses and administrators and bringing art and narrative and storytelling into the National Health Service here. And there's a couple of things, I guess, if I'm going to pinpoint something about what you said. One was early on, which was the future is ancestral. And the second was that you're living your life or doing your work in the being between art, education, science. So I wanted just to offer how I've thought about that. I very much follow the work of transformation and Martin Heidegger And he basically says the future is not ancestral. The future is possibility, and that human beings aren't. Yes, we are he uses the word thrown. We're thrown to our ancestry, but it's not our being. It's not our essential being, if you like. And our essential being is kind of possibility. And so I was interested or fascinated that when you came back at the end to yourself, Mayara, that you used it, you said, I'm being between being science and being art, and you kind of came back to this idea of being. So it's just some random thoughts that came up. There's not a question, but maybe you'd like to respond. And
Thank you, Maurice. Mayara, back to you.
Sure. Thank you, Maurice. Lovely to know about your PhD. The future is ancestral. It's a phrase from Ailton Krenak. He's this indigenous leadership, and I think it brings us a lot on the fact that we have been creating so many things like technologies and everything, and then we are kind of forgetting like planting trees, and they understand the river as part of their family. And like I think this connects with this, and I think this is really where I try to bring it. And then I just want to, as you talk about your PhD in theater, we have now running, and I couldn't talk everything on my presentation, but then I created with my patients basically a cultural center into this primary healthcare center. And there is a drama professor, Beatriz Costa Alvarez. She's doing her master's there, and she's kind of coordinating all of this with the state university. And it's a lot of sometimes it's very crazy because I'm seeing patients, and then I need to do something at the school, and then I need to do something for the art center, and then I need to come back. It's overwhelming actually, but then also I see how we create a sense of community as we are losing it. Many people do not know who are their neighbors. They do not, because we live very individualistic way. And I think when I push it, and this is, I think, what is the ancestral, because I think now we need to kind of get back to the simple thing of getting with other people.
Thank you, Mayara. To be honest, I understood it like that as well, as in terms of, the future is ancestral in the sense of, I understand where you're coming from, Maurice Heidegger's work, but at the same time, I kind of understand what Mayara is trying to say, that whatever we do now is leaving that legacy for the next people. So we are the ancestors, in that respect. So whatever we do now is the legacy that we leave for as ancestors to the next two generations. That's how I kind of looked at it, and I thought actually that resonated, despite also my close affinity to phenomenology. So I'm with you on that, Maurice.
yeah, I know, I completely get it. I believe that too. That somebody just posted in the chat. There's a lot of possibility in ancestry, and
Yes.
I absolutely concur with that. And by the way, I should change my name. Nobody calls me Morris except my mum, so it's
I'm sorry.
It's fine. I should have changed it. It's Mo.
I do apologize. We'll
No
make sure
worries.
we don't
I'm
do
going to
that
change
again.
it. That's fine.
Thank you. Amberly, can I bring you in, please? You've raised your virtual hand.
I did. I thought I'd be very orderly and raise my hand. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, everyone. It's been really lovely being in this space with everyone. And Mayara, thank you for your really fab whistle-stop tour. I feel like you covered so much time and space in the time that you had. So it was really wonderful to hear about it. And I've got lots of things, thoughts and responses, but I just want to ask one particular question. I should have introduced myself. I'm Amberly. Hi, everybody. I am a lecturer in health sciences, and I'm also a lecturer in illustration. So I have an illustration practice that looks at representation and how narratives are told through illustration in specific groups, such as Black women. And I also teach health sciences, looking at things like collaborative and integrated health care services and NHS stuff. So I teach both of those things across two completely different programs that are one is very art education based, one is very health science education based. And so a lot of the work that I'm doing and a lot of my research is looking at how we consolidate and reconcile those two things together and what that looks like in the middle, especially when it comes to representation and psychological safety and the kind of people that are often kind of lost in between those two things. And I loved your reference to Krebs' cycle of creativity and you bringing the art and the science and design and engineering together. I very quickly screenshotted that. And I would love to know more about how you kind of communicated this more broader definition of health, because I think I agree with you that I think health and care actually intuitively it has to be cross-disciplinary. I think it needs to bring in art and belonging and science and closeness. And I think that naturally our hierarchies need to be dismantled in order for true care and health improvement and promotion to happen. But I also know that we're existing in a society that sometimes still see health as a very specific, narrow, scientific, biased, robust space that has quite a limited scope. And we're still trying to battle, I think, trying to broaden out that definition. So I'd love to hear more about how did you broaden people's understanding of what to expect and what to bring into healthcare spaces through all the projects that you did.
Thank you, Amberly. It's very organic, actually. You know, I think the first thing is that it's not started as a cultural center. I'm very curious about my patients, like really. I do everything. I take care of the blood pressure and, you know, like all the things. But then I usually want to know, like, what do you do? And I think some people ask, but I ask what people do, what they like to do. And I also ask what they studied, if they studied until when. So I started identifying artists and people that are interested in doing things. And then I also identified people that haven't had access to education. And we have a lot of pressure on the health system. And many times with this pressure, we kind of shorten the consultations. And we should see a patient in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And I think this killed me. I hate this idea of massive taking care. But of course, there I see a lot of patients and everything. But I usually I started with, there was a patient and then she had a cough and then we were talking and then I discovered that she was like a professor a teacher of drama. And I said, look, we have like some free space here, it's not being used. Do you want to do something here? And it started really like that. And because I kind of, and I think maybe it is this capacity. I think some people always point me as to put everything together. And then with the parking place, it was terrible because, you know, we have a great area on the back of the health center, and then just for cars. It's so symbolic to take out the cars and then I started quite alone to take it was like I don't know how to call it in English, but it was like small stones that people put the cars on, and then I started by myself pushing it on my lunchtime, so I can started in a very small place planting, and then I started to organize groups, the community groups, to work as part of healthcare because I play with the earth political. It's a concept of we have the therapeutic and then we have the earth therapeutic. We need to connect with the earth. And so I think this earth vertical, it was a colleague of mine that created this Alex Villanopoulos. I'm trying to translate between Portuguese and English. In Portuguese, it works much better. But then this earth vertical where people can connect. So I think it was much needs from myself, but then I used my family doctor identity to try to put everything together. I think this and the capacity of listening. I think this is I'm a good on listening. So listening communities, listening the Maré community, and listening and try to think together with people how to do and how to move.
Yeah, thank
I
you
don't
so
know
much.
if I
Can I
answered.
add? Can I quickly respond? Is that okay, Nicole?
Quick, because we've got
Very
another
quick,
hand up.
very quick. I just want to say that it feels like you are really kind of promoting how important it is for us as healthcare professionals and mental health professionals to be cross-disciplinary. I think there's so much power in ensuring that everybody, and this is like systems level change, but there's something about all of our medical training, because I have a background in psychiatry, and we never spoke about the intersection of art and design in clinical spaces. Things like active listening and therapeutic ways of engaging in the arts is something we're not taught. And I feel that this is a good argument for all clinical teams
I
having a
think
layer of art.
Amberly, I agree with you, but I think Mayara goes even a step further and actually saying it's not just about, you know, what we with those disciplinary spaces make, but also how can we you know, invade the space or go into the space, enter the space that is our community, and trying to even dissolve the boundaries there as well. Is that true, Mayara?
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, Pedro put a comment in the chat. I'm just picking up on that because you were saying it was terapeutico, and
Yeah.
I like that because it's therapeutic rather than therapeutic. It's actually therapeutic.
Yes,
It's to
exactly.
do with the
That was
earth
what I
and
was
the
trying
world.
to
Yes,
say in English.
absolutely. Yes. Sahana, please come on in.
Hi, good morning. Sorry, I
Hello,
can't turn
hi.
on my camera. It's not working.
That's
Um,
okay. No worries.
all right. Mayara, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I think what really stood out for me in the presentation is how you've woven different areas of work and different domains, subject disciplines in a way, but they all came together in a very seamless fashion. Um, I think I was coming from a space of how does time play a role in any kind of sort of intervention or any activity that you do, especially when I have found that a lot of creative and arts-based activities tend to, especially if somebody is doing it for the first time, it can be a very hit or a miss. And usually you want to encourage, the person that you're engaging with to spend some time with it, just sit with it a bit. And one of the cornerstones of therapy as well is also giving it time, giving it routine, giving it structure, moving in this sort of regularized, hourly, weekly fashion. And I wonder if you encountered people who had a sense of who came with a sense of pushback in terms of, but what is this going to do? How is this, like, I don't see results immediately, I don't see some impact immediately. So what if my anxiety is, held or contained? How is it actually helping? What, like, there are people who come with that agenda, that sort of way of thinking and looking at the world in a very results and a concrete, I want to see it. And if I don't see it, how long am I going to keep waiting for this uncertain process to finally unfurl, and for me to have faith in that process, for me to just keep going? I wonder if you encountered that, and if time is something that, comes up in the way you think about your creative praxis and your work in the field and your work with unknown people. Yeah, thank you.
Not just regarding patients, Hannah, thank you for your comment. But then not just about individual patients, but then when we started in the Brazilian health public system, it's kind of the NHS, but we have a lot of community input. It works a little bit different. And then we have actually community places where the community can make changes into the health system, in the Brazilian health system. And it was completely empty when I started work where I am now. It wasn't existing it anymore. And so the community kind of lose a part of their voice because they weren't using that space to make decisions. And we call it the local community council. So we kind of a health council. So we kind of recreated it through planting the trees and doing all of these movements and bringing them back. And of course, take times. I'm almost 4 years at the place that I am now, and then I think every time it's different and it's increasing. I can send you if you want. It's in Portuguese, but then I can send later to Nicole. All the community practice that we have now happening into the community. And of course, for some people, it takes time. And then I use the time, a lot of time, to say, look, do you want to start a medication? Do you want what you want to do? And do you want to try a little bit, come to yoga classes, come to drama classes, what you want to do? And if you want to come, do you want to try, and that we can see each other in 3 weeks' time, 2 weeks' time, and then rethink. And I haven't talked a lot about it, but then we also have, with this agroforestry on the back, we have a lot of medicinal plants. And I think we kind of lose the connection with teas, but then a chamomile tea, and then we have over 50 different teas there, and then maybe using this. And then it kind of, if you have just a tablet, it comes ready for you, and then you just take the tablet, and then you buy on the pharmacy and everything. A tea, it takes a little bit of more time. You need to go to the garden, you need to take the, and then you can plant with us the tea and everything, the medicinal plant. And then you take it, put on a cup, hot water, and it took time. And I think bringing all of this into the practice, I think this accelerates a little bit. But then there is some people that just want results. And I'm very pragmatic. I say, even the medication will not bring that faster results. And then do we need to accommodate ourselves in this faster society that we need to be running all the time and everything? And then through the school, for mainly older people that have not accessed education, it happened that I took out the medication, antidepressive, because they kind of had now the access, because they didn't get out of their house, their home. And then they start to get out of their home. And then they start to go to the school. And then with the school, they learn how to use the bus of the city, and then they go, and then through the school they go to the museum. Many patients of mine, over 60, 70, they are now going for the first time into the museum. So imagine. And I think this changed everything. So we took out medication because they are just getting integrated, but of course it took time, but I don't think it's that much, like 4 years, not that much if you think. And then kind of changing a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Mayara. This was a really, really super inspiring talk. There is so much of love in the room for you, for everything you've said. I would just like to very briefly highlight that we do have another seminar coming up on embodied knowing, foregrounding the multisensoriality of the body as an epistemological site, with Dr. Elsa Ermsten. That's going to be on the 14th of November. And I have put the link to the event in the chat box already. Here is another slide with all the information about the network and also my email address, if you would like to get in touch with me. But yes, it would be lovely to have you all connect with us through the PAR network.